Shauna. So I did one about the things you want to pay attention to before you do a loan signing. Now I'm going to tell you things you need to pay attention to during a loan signing, when it's time to actually go and do the loan signing. Things you need to pay attention to. First things first, be on time. Even if that means if you're sitting in front of their house 15 minutes early and you want to knock at the door 5 minutes before their appointment, be on time. Worst thing you can do is be late to an appointment that you set up the time. Come on now. And then dress appropriately. I really want to say dress like you got some sense, but I'm gonna say dress appropriately. When I say that, t-shirts are out. Do not wear no t-shirt. For both girls and guys, do not wear t-shirts. T-shirts is not the professional. This is your business after all. This is you presenting yourself as a professional. Last thing you want to do is, you know, wear t-shirts and like jeans or leggings. Oh my gosh, the leggings and the sandals. I have seen it. I have seen it. Okay. Like, say this. It's not the cutest top, but I mean, it's not a t-shirt. A blouse. This blouse I think cost me like $5 from, what was it? Like Rue 21. It was just on sale outside. This something like this is fine, you know? But do not wear t-shirts, tights, leggings, mini skirt. You don't have to be all classy, high heels, a dress and all that. Like, you don't have to wear suit and tie, but you want to dress nice. I mean, for like a guy, some slacks and a button-up shirt would be nice. You don't even have to wear the tie. Hold on. Okay, say you're really busy, right? Say you have 2 loan signings in one day and they're pretty much back to back. The last thing you want to do is take document from one signer's house and bring it to another signer's house and accidentally get them mixed up. Matter of fact, because I mean, let's be honest, especially if you're new to this, your mind will be like running wild, crazy, and you'll have 1,000 things on your brain, and the last thing you need to do is start mixing documents up. It happens. Come on now, it happens. So let me show you what I do. So what I'll go and do is, say I have 2 signings that one day, I'll go in and on the actual envelope write signer 1, I'll put their name and address, signer 2, name and address, and when it's in here, I can go in and pull it out. And I actually have to, because the last thing you want to do is be at the table ready to like do the loan signing and open it up and be like, okay ma'am, the packet. Ooh, this actually kind of happened to me, but didn't. What I did is open, I'm like, okay, it was it a couple, or I don't remember, but I put it out. I'm like, okay, so we're gonna do it but this is the time I used to use sticky notes, but that's the reason why I don't use sticky notes. I was like, okay ma'am, so we're gonna go right here. And she was like, no, it was a he, and he was like, so my name is not correct on this form. That's not my name. And I was like, my bad, I pulled out the wrong packet. It was a blank packet. It was for the next loan signing, but I pulled out the wrong packet for a signing that was supposed to be happening on the next one. That's because I used to put sticky notes on. Let me show you. I used to put sticky notes with the names and addresses, but the sticky notes don't always stay and they'll slide off. And what happened is I wrote the name and address on it, and while in the bag moving around, it shifted off and went on top of another packet. So when I put it off, it said the name and address, so I just assumed, okay, yeah, that's the name and address, here you go. Turns out, no, the sticky note just moved, but that's not the right address, so I had to put it back in there, pull out the right one. Luckily, it was an already blank one that hadn't been filled out, but that's the reason why I say, if you can leave already signed documents in like the trunk of your car, not on the seat, not on the dashboard, but in the trunk of your car. But it's not a necessity. You can leave them in your bag, because truthfully, that's the safest place when it's always with you. That way you know no one else has access to it because it's with you. But yeah, that's the reason why I actually write on the folders versus just putting sticky notes, because the sticky notes like to move and shift and fall off. Only time I use sticky notes is if I'm making a note on the actual document, but otherwise on the actual folder, I write directly on the folder. Then also what you want to do is have you I mean, you don't have to have you, but it definitely helps, especially if you're new to the game. It's something called a cheat sheet, or I call it the cheat sheet. Basically, I have like a cheat sheet. I want to actually share this with you in another video. I don't actually use it as much now. The only time I use it is like I take off a month of loan signings to work on my other businesses, and then when I'm coming back, I'm like, hold on, I need a refresher. This is what I use, but I'll go through this in a different video. But then this sticky notes are also helpful. What you do is when you ready to do your loan signings, what you can do on a sticky note, write the signer's first and last name and that day's date, and stick it right next to the signer when it's time for them to sign. That way, anytime it's time for them to sign their name, sign their, it's not that they forget their names, but sometimes there's very specific whether or not you have to put the middle name or not. And then also they got to make sure it's completely legible, otherwise the lenders will have a problem and they will request the re-signing for that sheet or whatever. And then also the signer sometimes don't even know the date, and it's real quick and easy for them to forget. You know, like, how would they forget? Well, because you gotta understand, sometimes you're doing loan signings for people who are themselves are nervous. Maybe it's their first time buying a house, they're buying a house, so their mind is also going 1,000 miles per minute, and remembering the date is not on one of them. They're like, how I'm gonna pay off all this money for this loan, or I hope I get, like, this goes through and goes smooth. Like, they have their own nervousness. That's why you shouldn't really be nervous, because they looking at you like you're a professional. I would talk about like how to curb your nerves, especially on your first few loan signings, in another video. During a loan signing, when you're like, well, exactly what do I, that's another thing on the cheat sheet, little booklet. I'll do it in another video, but I just want to give you a brief statement real quick. If anybody asks you why something is the reason why it is on their loan packet, you don't have to answer that question. That's up to the lender to ask that question. So they can be like, what my closing cost? You can tell them your closing cost is $4,000. But the why my closing cost is this much, you don't have to answer. If they have questions like that, you tell them straight up. We can stop, so you can call your lender so you can get more information about that. I'm only allowed to tell you what, but not the why. The reason why you cannot tell them the why is because, first off, you're not an attorney, and then you also don't want to be accused of giving the signer the wrong information. During a loan signing, if a signer is ever hesitant to sign, do not make them sign. You can't force them to sign. Ask them, do you wish to continue? I can give you a few more minutes to think about it, but if not, I have to go. I'm a busy woman. No, but yeah, you can't pressure the signer to sign. If they don't want to sign, they don't have to sign. It's time to pack up your stuff and go. Typically, if that does happen, you still get paid, not as much, because you only get really paid the full amount if the full process was completed. But the signer stops midway and don't want to sign, well, typically you probably get at least half the money, at least printing costs, travel costs, and the initiation of paying. You guys keep saying you want to know a video about how much you charge. I'll do that in another video, so stay tuned for that. This is something that I know this might trip some people up or might not, but because you get so, like, soon as you, especially if you're new and you're nervous, you get all worked up and you're like, okay, I just want to make sure I don't mess up, go and try.
Hi, I'm here doing loan signing. Okay, when we sit down, we're gonna talk about, okay, this paperwork is this paperwork.
You gotta make sure they are who they say they are. But first thing first, get their ID, make sure who they are, and put in the notary act in your notary journal. You know, don't go straight into because you're nervous, because you're like, I don't know, I just want to make sure I do it right, and immediately you're like,
hi, I'm so and so, I'm your loan signing agent. Okay, here's your paperwork. We're gonna start with this and da 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 da.
You don't know if that's the right person. That could be a cousin, that could be a aunt, that might not even be the actual person that you're supposed to be doing the loan signing with. For all you know, they're just filling in while the actual person's at the grocery store running errands or something. Make sure you are talking to who you are talking to. With that being said, never discuss whatever the documents going on in the documents. Don't discuss it with one of their family members or one of their friends. Like, you might be there doing a document and be like, oh, that's the, I wanted to get a house. What is this all about? Like, so is that closing costs right there? Is that they shouldn't even be looking at documents. Even if the signer is like, oh, that's my nephew and he wants to learn about or that's my best friend and she just wants to learn and she's thinking about buying our house and wants to know through the process. What you tell them is that, ma'am, this is some very sensitive information. I got to make sure I can only discuss it with you and not any other party. parties that have nothing to do with this situation. So what I can do is once I'm done with this, I'll leave you a copy of all this information that you signed, and then you can go through it with that person. You don't want to let somebody else right there sit along and that has nothing to do with the situation basically copy whatever they see with their eyes and internalize and analyze. This is not for them to know, okay? At least not while you present, because you don't want to hear nothing, say nothing about how somebody got a hold to this information. No, whatever the bar does once you leave the house is what they do when you leave the house. This is all just so you won't be liable for anything. And then there are times where the signer is required to play a closing cost or play an actual check, like give you a check, and you want to make sure when that happens you secure that check as best you can. Matter of fact, even if you want to like carry envelopes with you, put the checks in the envelopes, write on the envelopes the name of the signer, and then tape the check to the inside of not the actual check, because you don't want to risk like ripping anything on the check, but like put the check in a, hold on, I got to put the check like inside of an envelope, and then if you want to like take folder with all the signed documents, tape the actual one to the inside. That way you know it's not falling out. Then make sure you secure it in your bag. You want to make sure it's completely sealed away. It's not able just to fall out, because you know checks are smaller than actual paperwork, so you can lift that thing up and it'll fall out and you didn't even notice heading to your car. So make sure you completely secure the check before you leave. And then when you get outside into your car, you're like, okay, I completed my signing. When you get out to your car, go double, triple check. You're like, well, I don't want to sit in there. First off, I do not recommend ever parking in somebody's driveway. Park on the side of the road or the side of the street, but never park in somebody's driveway. And then when you get in the car, you're like, well, I don't want to sit in front of somebody's house for too long. No, sit as long as you need to sit. You want to sit there and make sure you go through double, triple, quadruple check those documents. Make sure you get every last bit of information. Make sure everything is signed, every T is and every I is, I don't even remember what the saying, every T is something, every I is dotted, whatever that saying is. Make sure you do it, because who cares if they see you out? They're not tripping on you. Trust, they are not tripping on, they know who you are and what, they just want to make sure that they've done what they need to do, and now the process for their house is going to be okay. You don't have to drive 15 minutes away and then sit around, sit right there, you fine. I mean, what they gonna do, call the police on you? For real, it ain't gonna happen. They know who you are. If they ever come out and be like, hey, or is everything okay, you'd be like, oh no, I'm just double, triple checking, making sure everything is okay. That way I don't have to come back to you and we have to do this process again. They're gonna be like, okay, yeah, make sure you handle that. So yeah, that's basically it. Just keep those things in your brain when you're doing the loan signing. But yeah, I'm outie.